Hey folks, how you doing? Ben with the virus once again, and we're back here with episode 76. For those of you who are not familiar with this podcast, this is a podcast that's not a COVID-19 podcast, but instead a podcast where we have contagious combos and viral viewpoints. So stick around. We talk a lot about business. We talk a lot about mindset, self-improvement, and things in and around those topics. Tonight, we have a special guest joining us. And I'm going to introduce him here in a sec after I give you the plugs real quick. If you want to live stream with this and comment on and kind of chime in with these conversations we're having, you're going to want to follow us on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Those are our live stream platforms. You'll see some posted content on Spotify, Instagram, and Twitter, and also Anchor FM after this episode that I'll get done. So without further ado, Larry, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you, Ben?
Good. Hey, I'm fantastic. Like I said, it's other than it being like excruciatingly hot over here. It's a great day, you know. We get deprived of the sun, and now that we got it, we don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. It is unusually warm for you up there.
Yeah, it is. Where are you located?
We're in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, okay. So you're used to it. You're used to the heat.
Where we are, yeah. Sometimes you get about a week ago it was 108. So.
Oh wow. Yeah. See, we're just getting that over here, and nobody knows how to deal with it. We're all getting scared, and air conditioners are sold out in every store, and you know, everybody's just trying to acclimate themselves. Well, that's good to hear. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. And for those of you who don't know, Larry and I are in a program that's basically put together. We're partnered up with Grant Cardone as licensees to help other businesses increase their revenue, work on marketing, and anything sales related, really. And so I've been looking forward to chatting with you because, we don't really get too much time on our Friday morning meetings to kind of individually talk with each other. It's really just a lot of people on one call. So I think this is a good way to connect with each other. You know what I mean?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So, I guess today, the things we're going to talk about is just those things I just mentioned. I'm very interested in talking, learning more about you and kind of what your journeys look like. I want to talk to you about mindset, business, self-improvement, Grant Cardone, the 10X movement, all those things that it sounds like you and I both value in our lives. So, we have segments. I'll kind of segment it out. I got these little, these cute little things that we call them contagious combo segments, and then it goes into viral viewpoints. And really, I'll just taper it off into my quick question of the day for you, and take it home after that.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So let me just kick it off here. Like I said, I want to just learn more about you. So I guess let's just start by like your story. What can you tell us about yourself? Like, what is your story?
Okay, well that sounds great. I will start off by saying I'm going to start off with being a husband. Nice. My wife and I, my wife Lori, we've been married for 38 years. So very proud of that, and it's been a wonderful journey. I joke sometimes to say it was not love at first sight. I thought she was terrific, but it wasn't. I had to do some selling.
Nice.
But it turned into a wonderful journey. So 38 years, and we have 2 grown children. We have our daughter Ashley and our son Alex, and very, very, very proud of them. They're off chasing their dreams now, and so that's really, really neat. We touched on it a moment ago. We're living in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're actually native Californians, have really grown up and stayed here our whole lives. So we haven't ventured very far, and it's unusual that people are native Californians these days.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So, so husband, father, then the business side as well, which I know we're going to dive into. So I'll pause there and just see if you've got any other questions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great spot to kind of regroup. And I love the fact. Congratulations to you, by the way, for having such a lovely family setup. Being in a marriage for that long, it seems like you always hear the percentages. Of course, you always hear negatives more than positives, it seems like, when it comes to news and statistics. But it does seem like there's a good portion of people that have a tough time staying married for long-term periods. So just congratulations to you. I imagine you've had ups and downs, and it sounds like there's more ups than downs, though.
The road is not always smooth, but you're right. There's more ups and downs. And
that's good.
It's pretty darn special.
Very nice, very nice. I will say I haven't really traveled too much as far as living in different places. I've pretty much been in Washington State my whole life, short of when I was, years ago when I was in high school. I was going to my sophomore year down in Barstow, down in Southern California, and I enjoyed it very much. Even though Barstow was much of a desert, it was just so hot there. There's really not much there. I did enjoy it. I just enjoyed the weather and just knowing that it's going to be a nice day out. Whereas over here in Washington, it's the opposite of that. It's usually pretty gloomy, wet, cloudy out, and so I kind of miss that. I miss California. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, what can you tell us about your business? What kind of business is it? How long have you been doing it?
Well, I've been around business for a while, and the last business, the business I'm actually still in, is tied to agriculture. So I started off years ago. I actually worked for a cannery, and then later transitioned to this company, which is really tied into the fresh produce industry. So we cool and then ship fresh produce, whether that's lettuce or celery or strawberries. And we've got a couple of different ways to do it. We've got cold facilities, cold warehouses, refrigerated warehouses. We've got specialized equipment, and then we've got a team of people that service all of that. So it's a pretty interesting business. Things that get harvested in the morning are hopefully shipping out, going head into the grocery store, let's say later that day.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a great journey. It's a wonderful business, and obviously helping provide fresh food to the world, at least to the country. When I first started, we were at about 25 million a year in sales, and we've now taken that up to about 150 million a year in sales.
Wow. Yeah. Talk about tremendous growth. Wow.
Yeah. So it's like I say, it's been a great journey and lots of experiences, whether it's challenges, problems, opportunities, you deal with it all. And I've gotten a lot of great experience, whether it's operations, sales, IT, HR, strategy, it just, you get in deep.
Yeah, I can imagine. With any business, right? There's layers to it, and sometimes people don't realize that, especially somebody who's never been in business yet, just getting started. You start peeling back those layers. You're like, oh wow, I didn't know that this was involved. Oh wow, this is much harder than I thought.
Yeah. I think even like if I've got my start in a larger company, and there you get a more limited, I'll say more focused role, and you get used to dealing with that role. And when you're dealing with a smaller or medium-sized business, it's just what you said. I mean, there's so many different things, so you're not worried about just that particular operation. You're worried about people, you're worried about cash, and you're worried about billing and sales and marketing. So you're just constantly something to look out for and deal with.
Yeah. No, that sounds very interesting. I have a huge appreciation for the produce industry, and I value it quite a bit, especially because I'm a plant-based eater, and so that's all I eat is produce. So the fact that you're talking about the freshness of 1 day turnaround, that's pretty cool. That's pretty valuable. That's kind of
it really does move fast. It's people are usually very, very surprised at how fast it moves. Yeah,
no, I am surprised. It kind of reminds me of. Did you watch Undercover Billionaire?
Yes.
Yeah, it reminds me of Elaine. Elaine's the business she started there on the podcast, or not the podcast, excuse me, the show where she was turning that. She was getting farmers to basically produce, harvest and produce, or not harvest and produce, but basically get the fresh produce in that store that very day. Kind of reminds me of that on a smaller scale, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. She was getting the local farmers to bring it into what is it, Shepherd's Inn?
Yeah.
And and then use it. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I like that. Well, congratulations again. I mean, turning those kind of numbers and evolving is a huge improvement. What kind of time frame were we talking about? How long have you been doing that?
Well, that took us about 3 decades. So,
Yeah.
one of the neat things, and I know we're going to touch on this too, but you start looking at the things that Grant has with his programs that we're involved with the licensing, whether it's sales processes, training, marketing. Those types of things will help. The other thing is I'm also a licensee with Brandon Dawson in the Cardone Ventures Group.
Nice.
And I'm actually the first one. So Brandon said, let's, one of the things that we saw when we were talking to Grant and his team about becoming a licensee was, hey, can we also do it with Cardone Ventures? And ultimately the answer was yes.
Yeah.
And there's huge links or huge synergy, to use a fancy word. And what Brandon's doing and what the Cardone Ventures team is doing with businesses is just remarkable. So had we have known those types of things, I could just see how we could have gone further. So.
Yeah. And I was going to talk to you a little bit about that later regarding, how successful businesses would look at a program like the 360 that's put on by Brandon Dawson or any of Grant Cardone's content, because a lot of people, a successful business might, there's successful businesses out there that they get comfortable. Somebody hitting numbers like where you're at right now, a lot of them might be thinking to themselves like, we're hitting some good numbers. Like I'm really not worried about growing. I feel comfortable. There's no need to grow. And so that actually it speaks volumes to your character and like what you're looking to do, because to me that tells me that you're looking for more. You're looking for that next thing. You're looking about scaling, no matter how big it already is. And that just it speaks a lot about you and your character, and anybody who chooses to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and what a great individual. We'll talk about Brandon a little bit. I mean, he's obviously an excellent individual, but Brandon Dawson is a pretty stellar guy, in my opinion. And,
oh yeah.
Right? Yeah, I mean, you're right. He just is helping and impacting businesses so much. I had to make a decision. Am I going to do the 360 or am I going to do the licensee program? And ultimately, I decided to do the licensee program for now. But I have no doubt that I'm going to end up running into Brandon Dawson. I know I signed up for the Business Summit. I'm not sure if Brandon Dawson, kind of spearheads that program or not, but we'll find out. I do know he lives about 2 hours south of me, yes, over here, so kind of ironic. But yeah, all just a great group of guys to work with, I imagine. Okay, well, that's great to hear. Let's see. So, like, where are you? Let's go back in time a little bit. I like talking to older individuals like yourself, and I'm fascinated with, in a good way. Yeah, young men like you. I'm just fascinated with history, and I'm fascinated with how a person is, what their family structure was like, what their days were like as a kid, what they were taught growing up, things like that. Where are you from and how is your family structure like, and then I guess my follow-up question to those would be like, what are the type of things you were taught as a kid when it comes to just life and maybe business or money even?
Sure. Thinking back, I think one of the big things, I grew up here in the Bay Area, we have 2 brothers, so there was 3 boys, and then my mom and my dad, and typical, I'll say, middle class raising and everything. We got involved in sports. I played a lot of baseball. Our elementary school was just down the way from where our house was, and it was like there was a pie-shaped lawn in the front. There was a perfect baseball diamond for 2-on-2. I played baseball, I think, all summer long. Just loved it. We just constantly have games, and until the sun went down, we were out there.
Nice.
So yeah, always loved baseball. Played through high school. Started to play in college, and I was a pitcher, and my arm went out, so that took care of that. but just always loved the game. Another thing that hits me is, my dad, I think, really pushed us to, be responsible and earn our own money type thing. So, we always had something to do around the house that was expected. And I later became a paper boy. And I remember the paper boy story because it almost was the start of business for me. And you think about paper boy and you think they're just out there throwing papers, but really it's a small business because you've got to have the commitment. It was 7 days a week. It was early in the morning.
Yeah.
You had to get the papers, you had to fold them, you had to deliver them. I always like to put it up on the top step. And and things happen. I mean, sometimes the paper would bounce wrong, and I broke a few windows, and then you had to go collect. And a lot of times people would say, hey, come back. So you'd have to go back 2 or 3 times. You would go out and you try to find new customers. And if you were going on vacation with family, you had to find somebody to take over your route. So there was all these things, and I was 11, 12, 13. And so I think it taught me a lot. Again, responsibility, having to hang in there, and like I said, really grow a business. So
that's awesome.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, I love the Paperboy story. It reminds me of Warren Buffett, right? Didn't he start with the Paperboy thing?
Yes.
I think he did. Yeah. It just reminds me, because obviously you've done very well in your business, and so has he. So it just kind of, first thing I thought of was Warren Buffett when you were talking about that. So, and you're right, it does seem like a small business, and I like hearing that when kids and children get put in a situation like that where they really gotta learn the work ethic, and you're really put in the best situation, in my opinion, as far as, if you take a job like mowing someone's lawn versus the paper boy, you probably get a ton more value out of the paper boy experience because of all those things you just touched base on, having to collect, having to organize the money, and basically that's like accounting on a smaller scale, right? So it's really a valuable thing for kids. That's awesome. Aside from those, the paper boy experience, was there any other thing that like your parents, your friends, or your family taught you about like money or business, or is that pretty much the only thing you can think of off the top of your head right now?
Not so much about business. If I think on money, I think it certainly wasn't the abundance mentality. It was more of be careful. I remember, as you're saying that, I remember one time I went out and bought a pair of nice shoes, and I was probably about 17, 18, I don't know. And my dad said something like, "You've got champagne taste on a beer budget."
So that's funny.
It was more, the scarcity mentality. That's the word I was looking for. And be careful, and I can remember, when I got my first full-time job after college, he said, "Oh, that's great. People are always going to have to eat. You can work there forever. You can retire and have a great retirement." And of course, that's so different than, how you might look at it now, especially like if you're looking at it with the 10X mindset. So I would say it was more, it was probably more of the depression model, really. That came out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate on that too. I definitely could. It was definitely, save, don't spend so much, be careful what you're doing with your money, or you just weren't taught anything about it, So I think a lot of people can relate to that story, which is why I wanted to bring it up. I was curious if you had the same similar story to most of us. It sounds like you have. So yeah, you answered already one of my other questions. You talked about your first job. What was the most valuable thing you learned from that job? If you can pinpoint something out of the paperboy job, what was the most valuable thing that you learned from that experience?
From the paperboy?
Yeah.
I would say, it was, I'll say commitment. It was the commitment to get up and just keep grinding. Because every day I think I got up at 4:30, and whether it was, usually Northern California, it can be pretty cold in the mornings, even in the summer. So, you're up early, it was dark, you're out riding your paper and it could be raining, and, you just had to keep at it. And I think looking back, there was a certain pride. I wanted that paper on the top scoop of every customer. And I made a game out of it of finding a way to get it there, and hopefully I could hit it from the sidewalk, but if I didn't, I'd stop and go up and get it, put it on the top scoop, because I wanted to give that service.
Nice.
So I think the persistence, the commitment, and the wanting the excellence.
Very nice. That's huge too. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I think a lot of people, in my personal experience, every time, I'm talking about, sometimes people misinterpret what I'm saying and what Grant Cardone says as far as, having some ambition to maybe start something for yourself. I think they get the message from me and maybe even him that you shouldn't work for somebody, or that there's no value to gain from working for somebody, but that's not the case. There's definitely, that is something that's needed. You have to work for somebody, at least for some period of your time, especially as a young kid. There's just a ton of values that you can get out of it, especially if you do what you did and commit to actually, being exceptional at that job and not just going through the motions, but there's definitely value to get out of it. So I'm happy to hear that you got a commitment value out of that experience so young.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I agree with you. I mean, Grant will definitely say that, if you're in a job, be the best you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Be of such high value that they'd be at a big loss if you left.
Yeah, I love that. Over deliver, right? Yeah, I love that. I tell all the people who work for me the same thing. I'm like, over deliver. That's what I do, and then you got to do it too, though. You can't just tell people to do something and then you're not about it as well.
Oh yeah, no, you're the leader. You're setting the example.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. So the agriculture business with the produce, that probably wasn't your first business. I'm guessing. What was your first business if that wasn't?
Well, as I was going through high school, and I think at the beginning of college, I was in a couple of different retail jobs. And I worked at a bookstore, and then I worked at a hardware store. It was kind of like Home Depot. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was on a smaller scale. And those were great experiences. You had to deal with the public. You had to be able to answer questions. The hardware store was actually even better because I worked in a lot of the different departments, so I learned more about plumbing and electrical, paint. And I ended up at nights running the front end with the cashier team. So that was great. And speaking of persistence, it just hit me as we were talking about it. I had to persist to get that job. I think I went back to see the assistant manager about 10 times, and finally she said, "Enough, I'll hire you."
Nice. You 10x your follow-up. Hey, you were 10xing at that time. You didn't know it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Was that so those are jobs you worked at, but as far as like starting your own business, was there another business you started?
No, not until I got to the produce one, and again, that was in place, but I became a partner with them.
Yeah. Nice, very nice. Well, that's cool. You kind of missed the failed business experience then. It sounds like you got in good. You made a good decision right off the bat.
All true. The cannery that I worked for did go bankrupt, so I did get to experience the downside.
Oh, okay.
I had to work through that. And that was a tremendous. I mean, it was a sad thing that it happened, but it was a great experience to see what happens when demand collapses on you when you don't. And we made some mistakes. So I got to experience the mistakes. I got to experience the bankruptcy and closing things down. And so that was also, like I said, great experience.
Yeah, I'm glad you highlighted that too, because you said that it was a sad thing, but you looked at the positive in that experience because, and the reason why I'm guessing is because you had a lot of growth during that experience. Whenever something like that happens, you got to pivot, you got to adjust, and then if you succeed in that adjustment, you just feel so much better about it, and you're just more powerful, and you feel a lot more confident, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you made it through that, and you're doing fantastic now, and you learned from it. So that's the most important thing. That's awesome. Let's see here. What, I talked about what we touched a little bit on this, but I guess I want to ask you a more specific question. Was there one thing that you can think of that you were misinformed about with money, when it comes to money?
I think, I think so. I think I'm still working my way through it. And it's I'll call it that scarcity mentality again. You've got a certain amount of money, and you better save, you better cut, you better restrict yourself. But on the other hand, as we're now learning, and that's why I say I'm still learning this today, go out and find more. Go get more business. Go get more opportunity. Create something. It's just a different way of looking at it, and it's really, really powerful. But I think the big thing was, almost take what you get and figure out how to cut on the rest of your life. So if you're only making $50,000 a year, you're going to have to figure out how to make that work. End of story. Versus go figure out a way to invest in yourself, find an opportunity, grow it, improve it, make something happen.
Yeah, that is huge. I mean, you talking about that is very, very huge. Just that. And I have a suspicion that it's probably Grant Cardone that has. If you haven't heard that before, I know he definitely pounded it home with you, because he did that for me. And that was one of the things, is just having that. It's a poor mindset. Even if you're not poor, if you were thinking that way, it's still poor mentality. Save, save, save. And people think that their problem is that they're not saving enough, they're not cutting back enough, and the problem is not in saving. The problem is you're not making enough money. And that was something that had to get drilled into my head a few times for me to actually, I didn't, me personally, I had a problem like hiring people, because I was like, oh, people cost money. And then when I heard Grant Cardone say that, people don't cost money. Not making money costs money. Yeah. Just hearing it put like that, just simple little, one-liners like that, it's like, holy shit, he's right. My problem is not making enough money. So yeah, I'm so glad you elaborated on that. And I think a lot of people, I would like to know the percentage, but it's probably a vast majority of people have that mentality about save, save, save. Where can I save? The 401k, putting money away to the Wall Street to handle for you. I think it's just a dangerous path to get. It's a hard mindset to get out of too. You talked about it right now. You're still working through it, and again, that speaks volumes to your character. You're an older gentleman, so you're looking for that next thing still. You're looking to grow your mentality. I don't get the sense that you have an ego issue, and I like that about you immediately. Older gentlemen, especially like in the construction industry, very aggressive, very ego driven. You can't tell them anything. They're not willing to learn anything. And so I really appreciate a gentleman like yourself that is actually, displaying a sense of vulnerability to want to improve. So.
I think a good part of my life, I've always wanted to improve, always been looking for something. And the other thing, as I'm blessed, with Lori, she's got a tremendous mindset. And it's really funny, we'll probably get to it later, but later we can talk about how we connected with Grant. But the first time I was reading, actually listening to the 10X rule, I came home one day and I was shaking my head with a smile, and she said, "What?" And I said, "You guys are twins." And she's got a tremendous mindset, an abundance mindset, a can-do, how do we make this happen type approach. So us being together for so long, I often say together we are unstoppable, because we look at things differently, but we've got the same values and we appreciate each other. And so, we moved in that direction even before we connected with Grant. And so that's neat. But my natural tendency is to be more of that older, mindset. So it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, man. That's important. And that was one of my questions, so I'll bring it back. I'll get to that, and we'll talk about how important it is to have a support system and somebody who's on board, because that is one question I had here on the second page. So I'm glad you're already thinking of that. Sounds like she's an exceptional individual. So good deal, and I'm glad you guys connected on a higher level.
There was a reason I was so darn drawn in the first night I met her.
Yeah, and there's also a reason why you had the 10x follow her up too. I mean, you felt it, man. There was a magnet there.
Yeah.
Just like Grant, right? He had to. How long was he trying to get?
I think he said 13 months. Yeah.
That's commitment.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love those stories though. That's awesome. I love hearing that.
Well, it took me 8.
Good. So you're saying you're better than Grant, yeah.
No.
You closed quicker.
Yeah.
Nice. So we talked about misinformation, and you talked about that a little bit, and we just kind of got off that subject. So how important is it to get the correct information?
Oh, obviously it's huge. I mean, you really do want to have good information, but I think maybe the other thing is just how are you looking at the information? Because even if you've got facts, it doesn't mean that you're looking at them in a good way. I just thought of something. A quote that I saw this morning, and it came from Stephen Covey, somebody that I've followed for a long time, but he said, the problem is the way we look at the problem. So even if you've got facts, if you're taking a different perspective on it, you're not going to get it anymore. Yeah,
that's huge. Yeah, another thing, when you said that, it's how you look at the problem. It reminded me of, I very well think it was Grant that was talking about this, but just the ability to look at a problem as an opportunity is one example of how you would look at a problem, or at correct information, and that's something that I realized I was doing too. But once I heard that, I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing. That's what I should keep doing, because that's huge, man. Just looking at problems as a doorway to provide a solution, and just staying positive with that, because a lot of people they get. And me included, there was years where I used to handle things like that too, where I didn't know how to deal with a problem, it was like more of a victim mentality, like, oh, this is happening because of this, I had no accountability at all, it was whatever, the government, it was my upbringing, it was, my friends, my mom, my dad, just no accountability. So looking at problems and taking control and having accountability, looking at problems to solve rather than blame is huge. I'm glad you talked about that.
I completely agree. And as humans, we're really good at wanting to, play the victim for a moment, or say, gosh, I drew the wrong card,
Right?
Yeah, the cloud's following me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, but once you understand it, it's easy to stay. It's easy to gear yourself that way, and just to be that you're turn yourself into being a problem solver, But I'm glad you said that. We are human, because I don't know about you, but I'll find myself, not very often these days, but I still do find myself retracting into a different, my old mindset, and I have to reality check myself, and literally just like give myself a mental smack in the face, I guess, if you will. Just like, hey man, get it together. You already know that's not the way to think.
Yep. And along the lines of what you were saying with Brandon, taking a look at problems as opportunities, just a quick example that hit me as you were sharing that. We were in a meeting, I don't remember which one now, but somebody said, boy, how do you get past the gatekeeper? You have all these gatekeepers, you make a call, you're trying to reach somebody, and they've got somebody in front of them that just won't let you through. And he said, stop looking at the gatekeeper, it's blocking you. Look at the gatekeeper, let them be your megaphone. Promote sell them, promote it to them, and let them go sell it for you.
That's awesome.
So just what you're saying, take that problem and turn it into an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And for those of you who don't know what the term gatekeeper is referring to, that's referring to the person before the actual business owner or CEO, or the person that's actually writing the checks for making the decisions for a business, receptionist, a wife, a husband, a friend that's, it could be anything, anybody before the actual decision maker is what Larry's referring to. But yeah, that's a powerful thing. Exactly. Sell them. And I mean, if you convince them, guess what they're going to do? They're going to convince the decision maker more than likely. So yeah, you talked about the business. That's great. Let's talk about, so you are in real estate apparently.
Yes.
When did you get involved with that? And what drew you to it? What drew you to that industry?
I'll say there's probably two chapters at least of our real estate journey, and the first one, which was the longest one, is just being around real estate, and that could be on the personal level because we bought and sold homes that we lived in, right? So doing that side. Also in business, because of our refrigerated warehousing, we would go develop certain things. So I've gotten deeply involved in the development of different facilities, buying and selling them, developing them with the city. I actually also separately at one point developed a shopping center. It was bare ground. We worked out a deal. We reparceled things. I ended up getting Home Depot in there. A local store for you, REI, came in, and so we developed a 20-acre parcel. So I've been around real estate, but as far as a real estate investor or looking at it through those eyes, it's only been a couple of years. It was right around 2 years ago, and once again, Lori happened to see something and thought, this could be pretty darn interesting, and we ended up going to a session and joined a group that was going to help people learn more about real estate investing. And so that started a new journey as real estate investors. And that really made a lot of sense to us. We actually have thought about diving in and looking at being a sponsor on different multifamily investments and things. But long story made short, in the last 2 years, we've made investments in apartments, multifamily, some shopping centers, and also some office buildings. Mostly down in the southeast of the United States, so Florida, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, and then also Texas.
Nice. How has that been as far as, was that a good decision to make? I think I know the answer.
Yeah, it was actually a great decision. It makes a lot of sense. You find the right markets, you have good partners. Some of these people are just really, really talented. And then the other thing is, we spent a decent amount of time, a decent amount of money learning, more about real estate, the real estate game, and what makes for a good property, how do you structure the deal. And so even if you're making an investment with some other partners, you want to know, does this make sense? And so, it has. So far it's working out great. I think it's just going to get better. Nice.
Very nice. Well, I'm happy to hear that because real estate is going to be my next chapter as soon as I can get the licensee program rolling, get some residuals off of that. I'm going to be looking for real estate next. And so I like hearing people getting invested in that and having a good turnaround, having that be a good decision, I guess, for them. So. Yep. Which I hear quite a bit, obviously there's some people that have had negative experiences with it, but I think all in all the people that I know on social media or personally have gotten involved in real estate, it's been one of the best decisions they've ever made.
I think some of it, everything's going to have good or bad, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of it is what markets are you in, where's the location, what's the plan, who's actually going to make this happen, who's the team, who's leading it, what's the exit strategy, how's it financially structured. There's several things that go into it, so you just can't throw the dart up on the board.
Yeah, you got to have a little bit of aim.
Yeah.
Nice. So you talked about the kind of the hump that you hit with the business where, one of the business had to shut down. You had to kind of adjust and pivot and get through that part. Other than that experience, has there been a particular time in your life that you can think of off the top of your head that you have tried or done or got involved in where you completely just failed at it and had to regroup and figure out either get better at it or go do something else?
Well, one thing that comes up is we in the produce business, we got approached by another group that wanted to do international shipping, and they had a way of what's called modifying the atmosphere. And it was so, as an example, if people were going to be sending produce from Chile up to the U.S. in the winter, it was when they went on the ship, we could control the atmosphere inside the shipping container, keep the produce fresh, and then it was fresher, it was more nutritious, when it arrived. The technology was great. So you asked about setbacks. So this business ultimately failed. And it was a couple of things. I mean, as I look at it, we had great technology. Nobody doubted the technology. It really, really worked. That was the great news. Our problem was probably twofold. The first thing was we didn't realize that what we were, the way that our equipment worked, to put it on a ship, constrained the ships. I mean, they instead of being able to move the containers wherever they wanted them, we had, they had to stay in a certain area. Because we had to connect to them all. We had to take up some of the space to have our generating equipment, etc. So some of the large shipping lines, they didn't want to deal with us. We were just going to be throwing them aside. So we had to find the smaller, more custom type shipping lines, fine, but that restricted how many people we could work with. So operationally, we were creating problems instead of opportunities. The second thing that we realized later, I realized later, was that we really didn't understand the market, or we got pretty optimistic. And if we just looked at fruits and vegetables, we needed 100% of the market probably to break even. And we weren't going to get 100% of the market, but we didn't know that until we got deeper into it. There were some things, there were some opportunities that we saw with other products, but ultimately it just flopped on us. So I think the biggest thing was realizing that even if you've got great technology, you gotta fit into the operation or figure out a way to help the operation. And the second part was really make sure that you know the market.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. I mean, it sounded like a huge endeavor that you were going after. So it probably would have taken a lot of group efforts and really a lot of things that needed to come together for that to make happen. It sounded like. Yeah.
I think everybody gets optimistic. So you think, hey, we can get this done. We can do it for say $500,000. That's all we need is $500,000 to make this happen. And we can get it done in 6 months. And 6 months comes, and 6 months goes, and you're a year out, you're a year and a half out, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you're $1 million, let's say. And so, and then the returns that you expect aren't as good. So, and I just thought of something as you were saying about this. Ray Dalio, a very successful investor, he said he always looks at things and says it's going to cost twice as much as I'm told, and I'm going to get half the benefit. It don't make sense.
That's a good way to look at it. That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, I've got people, they'll bring things to me, and I'll say, where's the hedge? What do you got in here for a hedge? And they say, oh, no, this is it. And I said, it's not going to go that way.
Well, you've been through it now, so I think it likely will be double the amount of what everybody expects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, because when I think of my experience, I just a little bit about me. I worked at a job for 10 years as a lead carpenter building sunrooms and outdoor living improvement. I quit that job to go start a new job with a business partner. Didn't know anything about it. Didn't know anything about the industry. Completely failed. All those things you just talked about happened. We thought we were going to build at a certain cost. It doubled that cost. We thought we were going to be millionaires and hit these numbers. We didn't even get near those numbers. and it just tanked. And having a business partner that just wasn't in alignment with me kind of solidified the whole terrible experience. And so had to cut the cord and figure out my next chapter.
Yeah, no, unfortunately it's not an uncommon story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you learn though. I mean, and that's the point, right? Is learning from epic failures too. I think.
Oh yeah.
It's moments like that, I'm pretty certain, is what really determines what kind of person you're going to be going forward, and how successful you may or may not be going forward. Some people might take that and go into retreat and say, maybe that wasn't for me. I should go back and work for that job that I was with. I should go and just stick to what I know, or doing that. A lot of people, that might have taken that first risk, they forget that it may require taking more risks after that, So
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I tried. Well, what'd you do? Well, I made a phone call. Type thing, or so. Yeah, you follow up, figure out a way to go in the back door, the side door, over the wall.
Yeah.
Maybe rethink it. Look at it again and say, okay, what did we learn, and what new opportunity might there be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's huge. So let's get into the viral viewpoint section here, because I want to spend a little bit of time with this. So you obviously you like Grant Cardone. You're in the licensing program with me. How long have you been following GC?
Not that long.
Okay.
It's kind of funny how we got started. It was in late 2019, I think October of 2019. There was a real estate workshop here in the Bay Area, and so we were learning real estate. We were thinking about getting deeper into it, as I mentioned, and so we went to it. And Tony Robbins was going to be there. There were some other folks that were going to. Sylvester Stallone was there, and some other folks.
Oh, I heard about this one. I heard about that one. Yeah.
Okay. And so then there's this guy named Grant Cardone, and there's these 10X flags, and there's people shaking them, and, rushing the stage and everything. And I'm thinking, what in the heck is this? Who is this guy? Never heard of him.
That's awesome.
And he gave a talk, and it was I enjoyed it. It was interesting, and one of the things I remember was he talked about money follows attention, and attention follows money. But he really focused on attention. Money follows attention, and he showed a graph that's been shown a lot, but it shows how many views he was getting in social media, and then what the sales for Cardone Enterprises has been, and it showed how they tracked. I mean, the graphs were almost identical. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And I, never been a big social media guy, never been big on promotion. If anything, just kind of lay low, hunker down, just stay below the radar type thing. So it was interesting, and I enjoyed it. But then that was that. And about a month or so later, Lori said, that guy Grant Cardone that we saw at the real estate deal, he's holding a 3-day conference in Las Vegas in February. And I said, and she said, I think we ought to go. And I said, I enjoyed him. He was on for about an hour. That was good. I don't think I could take 3 days. and I said, but I'll tell you what, you've got great instincts. If you think we should go, if you want to go, we'll go. So that was GrowthCon, obviously, in 2020 and in Las Vegas, and so we went. And it was great. I mean, you think back on it, it's really hard to believe all the people that were there and all the great information that came out. And I mean, it's just hard to believe that some of the folks that were there. Kevin Hart was really, really good. I got a kick out of Dana White, the UFC guy. I mean, that was a fluke that he was there. And I thought he was one of the great ones. But long story made short, we went to GrowthCon. So now that's February of 2020. That's probably when it really kicked in. And coming out of that, we started doing some of the online mentor programs. And obviously by then, COVID had hit. So more things were virtual. But we did mentor. We did the boot camp. We did the 10-day challenge. And of course, also the other thing that happened during all of this was we got connected with Cardone Ventures.
Nice.
So we started, I think Brandon was participating in some of the mentor programs, and so we started learning more about that. Long story made short, since February of 2020, again, we've done mentor, we've done boot camps, GrowthCon. We went to GrowthCon this past year in Miami. We have done now coaching with Grant. And we've been, we've gone to masterminds and some of the other workshops.
Nice. So yeah,
I don't know if I'm answering your question, so I'll pause.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, that was that was a follow-up question, like, what was your first experience with him? You definitely touched base on that. The only thing, what did you like about him most? I guess that was one question I had.
He looks at things so differently, and at first you think this is crazy, and yet when you stop and pause for a moment, you say, "Son of a bitch, this is great."
I know exactly what you mean.
It's like he said something recently. We were. I think we were in Miami, and he came in and he said, "I don't want you to have, 2 problems or 10 problems. I want you to have 2,000 problems. Because if you've got 2,000 problems, that means you've got 1,000,000 opportunities." And it was like, yeah, okay,
That's so true, though. I mean, if you listen to a statement like that, the average person, I mean, if I would have heard that when I was 25 working for a company, I would just thought that's ludicrous. Like, why would I want 2,000 problems?
Yeah.
But I totally get it now. And he talks about this quite a bit, that specific thing, he says, you're dealing with boring old problems. I have no interest in boring old problems, how to pay rent, how to pay this, how to pay, he's like, I want big problems. I want big problems so I can provide big solutions, and find those opportunities. But you're totally right. It's just the mindset, ain't it? And I had the same experience, by the way, when I first heard a lot of his talking, and I think for me it didn't last that long, because I'm the type of individual who needs that type of talk, just straightforward, kind of a little harsh, but realistic. And so when I did hear it, I was like, same thing. I had the same reaction as you did. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I can't even. This is no way. Like, how is this helping me? And then there was that moment where it just clicked. And it's like, holy shit, he's right. He's completely right. And then you think about all the things he said before and going forward, and it's like, he's completely right about 95% of what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. It's insane. I mean, it's just too much good content. And you're right. I'm glad to hear that it's a perspective thing for you, because I think it's that for a lot of people, it's that mindset shift. To just have that perspective that you were talking about earlier, that individual told you about, having perspective on problems. Same thing, perspective on you're just basically focusing on your internal dialogue. What kind of self-talk are you having? That stuff's important.
It's huge. I think as a general rule, the quote average person, they're just thinking of all the problems and how to hang in there, and instead of creating and the mindset. People will hear the word mindset shift, and it's like, oh, that's soft stuff. It's huge.
Very important. I just did a couple videos on that recently where I was talking about how I got started, like, on the self-improvement. That was the first thing I could think of. I was like, when I think of my experience, the first thing I had to do was focus on my mindset and kind of do an inventory of, like, what were the things I was telling myself? What am I viewing right now? What is my mindset right now? And how is that contributing to the position I'm in my life right now? And so I would say it's very huge, especially for someone who's thinking like, I want to change. I'm ready to do something different. I feel like I have more potential than what I'm doing right now. Where do I start? My response to that was like, you start with your mindset. I think that's a great place to start.
Well, how often will people say, oh, that's not, that's impossible, that can never be done, this barrier will never be broken, and then somebody does it, and all of a sudden, 3, 4, 5 people do it right after them.
So
now
true.
The belief is that, it can be done.
Absolutely. Just opens up Pandora's box and puts confidence in people,
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic stuff.
I think the other thing about Grant, he's very, very sincere. I mean, in a sense, you could say he's just as crazy as they come, right? Because he just looks at things so differently. But the guy he cares. He cares deeply. He's sincere. He's got huge integrity.
Absolutely.
As an example, we were looking at investing with him on a deal, and all set. We actually transferred our money. They got in touch with us and they said, we've gone through the underwriting again, and the deal's changed. We want you to know that here's what's going on. If you want to take your money out, we understand.
Huge. Yeah. Some companies just take the money and run, or give you kind of a story,
Yeah, and that's just one example, but you see it all the time. I mean, the integrity is huge. And like anything, is the company perfect? Do they execute everything perfectly? No. But none of us are perfect, much less a group. So, but the integrity's there.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. Is anybody perfect? No, absolutely. But you got to look at the accountability. Like, what kind of accountability does this person have? I got to deal with, I'm sure you got to deal with problems in your business as well, where I've definitely got problems in my business. I've had, I'm on a one-on-one relationship because I'm working with homeowners primarily. And if there's a problem on the job, they'll call me directly. I've had homeowners call me, while we're doing a $100,000 project on their house. Matter of fact, I had this happen to me when I was at the Miami Growth Con. We're in the middle of doing a sunroom project, and she called me pissed off, and she was drinking, I think, even. But she laid into me on the phone, and I just let her. I was like, hey, Petra, don't worry about it. We're gonna get you through this. Whatever the problem is, we're gonna get through it, and I have a solution for this. So I don't want you to worry about it. We'll get this fixed. We'll get that fixed. Just have faith in the process. And by the end of that phone call, her whole tune changed, and it went from, this is completely effing unacceptable to, like, you're a good guy. I'm really glad I'm working with you. And so that's the way Grant is. You know what I mean? Yep. That's exactly how he is. If he makes a mistake, he's going to hold himself accountable, and he's going to look for ways to actually rectify that and compensate for that. So you're totally right. The integrity is absolutely there. It also reminded me of when I kind of was first getting into Grant Cardone. I've only been following him about 3 years, but I had a buddy that was staying with me, a real good friend of mine, and I was getting him involved with it too. I was like, dude, check this guy out, man. This guy's insanely cool, and I'm hearing what he's saying, and I'm really vibing with him. And he had his doubts. He's a pretty skeptical type of guy, and he would just throw some things at me, pessimistic remarks at me, like, what if this guy was making up everything he said? He was completely just scamming people. And I didn't even pay that any thought. I just told him, I was like, you know what, I'm probably going to take a risk on him. I'm willing to take a risk on him because I got a good feeling about this guy. And I think that's easy to spot out, when people have integrity like that and they have good intentions. People can sense that. I talked about that on the Be Growth Driven little, I don't know if it's a podcast or what you call it, that little segment, but that was one of the things we talked about, is how people can, they have a good judgment of character, and if you have good intentions or bad intentions, they're going to know it immediately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, so now I talked about this a little bit, about how, you're practicing. I mean, in my eyes, you're a successful individual when you're taking a business from X amount of numbers to 4 times, 5 times that amount. That's a pretty good turnaround, and I think it sounds like you've hit some big successes in your life. So do you think you can do more than that? When you were getting involved with Grant, was that your mindset? Like, we can do more with this business.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had this conversation with a few folks. I'm just thinking that actually one night was talking with Natalie Workman about this, and I said, the interesting thing is, overall things have gone very well in our lives. You could say it's successful, but here's the thing now, as you look at it, you see how much potential there is, and you realize, God, there's just so much, and it's not that you haven't succeeded to date, but you just realize how much more there is. And so, it's like, what a tremendous opportunity. And so to answer your question, yes, absolutely. There's just so much more to do. And I mean, even like the licensing program, the opportunity to go out now, take the experience that I have and go help business owners, that are maybe just getting started or have been going for 5 years and, hitting some struggles. Maybe they feel like they've plateaued or, that type of thing. And you can go out and work with them, and it's especially a kick. I've talked to, a few business owners that are in their early 20s and it's just really neat. I mean, they're succeeding. They've got great energy. They've got great, enthusiasm and commitment. And sometimes it's just a few simple things. And you're always learning and you're always going to have to improve. But at least a few simple things might get them started in a different trajectory. It's going to really, really help them. And that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that is pretty neat. What would you say what's your particular purpose with this? I imagine it's not money driven. And if it is, that's okay. But I'm interested, have you thought about like what your purpose is and why you're shooting for that next level, I guess?
I think, well, there's several things. I think one is we just always like to grow. We always like to improve. We also like to contribute. We like to add value. We like to contribute. And so I think, this so far is both because, we will be growing through this. I mean, just learning more about, how do you structure your business? How do you structure your services? How do you look for the problems that business owners might have? How do you help them solve it? That's all growing. Then the second thing is contributing by helping them. And then, yeah, sure, you want to make money, there's not, but I think the value we'll add will be enormous compared to what we're looking at in the way of earning money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Contributing is huge too. It's such a good feeling, That's why I admire Grant Cardone quite a bit. You can tell that he wants to contribute to people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, to add to it just with the growth and what are we trying to do, if you look at it and you say, okay, you've got Grant's programs, you've got Cardone Ventures or Brandon's programs, and then there's my experience. And, if I'm able to help business owners and guide them a bit with my experience and bring those programs, those trainings as well, and that whole approach, it's enormous.
Yeah, that's tremendous value. Absolutely. I'm glad you talked about that too, because as licensees, it sounds like me and you have already thought about that too, because I'm not just specifically relying on, piggybacking off of Grant Cardone, although that is primarily what I'm going to be doing because that's what has helped me scale my business. Definitely not hitting numbers like you, but have 10x my gross revenue. So.
Nice.
So it has been a huge success for me in a pretty short period of time. So I'm going to use my experience paired up with Grant Cardone's programs and do the same thing that your intention is too. I think that's the best way you can contribute is experiences. It's a great way to.
Absolutely. And again, you've experienced it, so it's real, right?
Yep, exactly.
You're sitting there and you're saying, look, I know it may sound funny, but if you're doing Cardone and you're learning every day, it's going to help you. If you're communicating better, it's going to help you. You had that problem with the customer when you were at GrowthCon, and as you were telling the story, you hit me. Always agreed, right? So you didn't tell her she was wrong. You didn't tell her she was being rude. You agreed. And you said, "Hey, I hear you, and we're going to solve this."
Yeah.
And it's just those little, I say little, but very valuable things.
Yeah. They are, and it's funny. Yeah, they're little. They're easy. They're little in the sense that they're easy to do, but have a tremendous impact on the other person that's receiving that communication from you.
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, well, let's see. So that answers my question. I was going to ask you if Miami was your first Growth Con, and it wasn't. That was your second one. So let me change my question. You know, which did you like the environment in Miami, or did you like the environment in Vegas? And then a different question is, did you like the guests there in Vegas, or did you like them in Miami this year as opposed to last year? Tough question, probably.
Yeah, it's really tough. It reminds me of a fifth grade teacher. One time we asked him something, you know, when our daughter was in his class, and he said, "That's like asking me if I want my left hand or my right hand." They were both really, really good. You know, at the end of this most recent Growth Con, I think Grant asked from the stage, and you guys like the big audience, or you like the small? And I voted for the small. I thought, you know, there was a nice feel to that whole thing. They were both great, but you know, maybe it's our personality that, you know, it was nice dealing with having 2,000 instead of 12,000. The other thing though, on the guests, both years, I mean, just exceptional as far as the people that were there. You know, and you go back on this year, I think when Jesse Itzler came out, it was like when he finished, I thought, well, this thing's already a success. You know, I mean, he was really, really something. And then you follow it up, you've got, you know, what, Bethany Frankel, Kevin O'Leary, Alex Rodriguez, Drew Brees, I'm forgetting the guy's name, the EXP, Glenn Sanford. Glenn Stearns. You know, it just got rolling.
Don Peebles, Mike Rowe.
Don Peebles, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Don Peebles.
Pitbull,
yeah. I was surprisingly, everybody blew me away, you know. I was wondering if, you know, because there was a couple things I wasn't into as far as their profession, but when I heard him talk, I was like, oh, this is an exceptional individual here, and I really like him as a person.
Yep.
Yeah, very impactful for me too. And I also voted for a smaller crowd. And if I was to guess why people would think that they kind of prefer a smaller group rather than a bigger one, I would say it's probably for the networking factor. I made so many connections while I was there on a personal level, just being able to actually shake more hands. I feel like the more people there are, that probably might diminish. I have no idea. That's just a guess from me, but I feel like the connectivity in there was it was more abundant because you're in close proximity with almost everybody. You know, everybody's funneling through the same door. It just seemed like there was just hands being shooken all day, all night.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It really, you're absolutely right. I agree with you.
Yeah.
There was a lot of connections and a lot of networking.
Yeah, I met a lot of exceptional individuals. I didn't know Glenn. Is it Glenn Stearns? Not Glenn Stearns. Glenn Sanford. Apparently, I didn't know anything about EXP, but apparently he's that business is in Bellingham, which is about 3 hours north of me, and it's actually I got a little bit of tribal land over there actually in Bellingham. So I was like, wow, you know, that's a small world. You know, there's a successful individual right there, just right around the corner. And then it's weird, after I went to Growth Con, I ran into a couple EXP agents. I sold a job to one of them. You know, we're doing a project on one of his houses, and then we do a shared office type thing, you know, where they have buildings that have multiple businesses in the office. I didn't notice that until after that, but I was like, oh, there's an EXP agent in here too. So went and talked to him, and so I was like, wow, it's a small world. Talked to him about Grant Cardone. So you just make connections, you know. It's just a lot of connections is really all I can say about that experience.
Absolutely.
Very cool. And yeah, I knew that was a hard question too.
I don't know if you can hear me, but it looks like you froze.
Let's see.
Oh, there we go. You froze for a moment, Ben.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, at least we're here. It did say your internet connection is unstable, so hopefully that didn't. I'll be able to tell here on my screen. We'll see here. Let me check something here. Technology, right?
Yeah, I think it was at most 5 seconds. You just froze for about 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. I always get worried about those. What I'm going to do is just double check the video feed, see what happened here. Technology, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're good. Oh, cool. It's even doing closed caption for me. Or subtitles, I should say. So yeah. Let's see, where were we there? Oh, lost the video. 1 second. Okay, there we go. Alright, so one thing I wanted to ask was, did anything change for you after that GrowthCon in Miami? Either while you were there or after the fact?
That's almost like asking if I've breathed since then. The answer is going to be yes, and then of course then you're going to say, okay, what? And I'll tell you, everything's been on such just a tremendous growth spurt, and just so much learning and so much opportunity, and everything we've been talking about. That I'm going to say, okay, great, what? We've been participating in things. I mean, there was the sales workshop, there was the marketing workshop, there's been masterminds. We did 10X 360. But I guess if you said, hey, what came out of GrowthCon and how did that boost what you're doing? I think it was the connection. It was all the different connections and getting closer to some people. We joked at times because we'd say we'd meet people that we'd been seeing on screen, and it was great because I'd say, it's so nice to see you in 3D instead of 2D, so connecting with them, and now you stay more involved with them after the fact. So building all of that up. I think it's just connecting with people, continuing to build the network, not for the sake of saying, boy, now I can use the network, but just being part of this whole ecosystem, this whole network. It's a tremendous group. I was on a Clubhouse room the other night, and it just popped up, spur of the moment. Joel Berg put it together, and different people were talking. There were some folks that were from Cardone, and there were some that were just part of the group. And one of the things that I said was, when you're around the 10X community, everybody's supportive. Nobody's telling you, oh my God, why are you thinking that way? That's not reasonable. You can't do that. They're supporting you, and it's really, really neat. So I'm not really answering your question, but I think it's just a continuation. It just keeps coming and looping and getting better and better and stronger and stronger. Nice,
very nice. Yeah, that's huge. I don't know. I like hearing that you're getting so much value out of it, because I'm getting a ton of value out of it too. And yeah, with the licensee program particularly, it's I didn't realize it, but I had a big passion for sales, and once I implemented, I didn't realize that was the reason why I couldn't close anybody the first year of my business. And then once I started actually projecting confidence and convincing a customer and a person, going to somebody's house, doing an hour or two presentation and convincing them to give me a check that day, that was powerful for me. And I realized I had a passion in it. And so it just keeps feeding and just keeps going. So the licensee program kind of is getting me back to my roots, because it reminds me of, like the cold call. And for instance, I haven't done any cold calls yet, but I'm getting super pumped to do cold calls. I don't know if that sounds odd to you or not. I'm nervous about it, but I'm excited about it more than I am nervous about it. And I used to be a telemarketer. That was one of my jobs when I was 18 years old. Kind of like Alan Lazar, he talked about being a telemarketer too. I related with that. But yeah, I was really good at telemarketing. I would make 40 sales in a day on a phone. And I just I was happy with that job until I quit it and did some Cutco, like Todd too. I also did some Cutco at one time in my life. So sales has always been a part of my life, and I just get so much value, and that's part of the reason why the licensee program, it just made sense for me, because I get to contribute and push the same product that helped me scale my business to people that need it and that it can use it, to scale their business. So I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it as much as I am. Let's see. What we touched base on this a little bit, but if you were to, I guess, talking about the Grant Cardone licensee program, right? We've talked about that a little bit, but for some people who were just joining us or just kept catching bits of this and they don't really understand what it is, what would you say? What do we do? What is the Grant Cardone licensee program?
Yeah, well, and great question. I think the neat thing is that you can take it whichever direction you want. So some people are looking and it's going to be a standalone business. Some people are looking to bolt it on to something that they've already got going. Some people are looking maybe just to grow personally or share it with a group and trying to help people. So there's a lot of flexibility in it. I think the biggest thing is that it's an opportunity to open up the Cardone University or Cardone mindset to a wider audience. And if you look at it and you say, okay, why does Grant have the licensee program? It's because he's looking at it and saying, hey, there's 7.5 billion people, 8 billion people, whatever the number is now. There's, let's say 8. There's 8 billion people in the world. I'm not going to be able to touch them all, but I want to connect with them. I want them to know me. I want them to know our programs. And so one way to do that is through the licensee program. And so I think that's the opportunity is that, again, there's an opportunity to help people. And it could just be on their own personal growth. It could be on their business growth. It could be on certain technical skills. It's just there's a lot of flexibility. For us, again, we're looking to help business owners, and we're looking to help them grow and scale their business.
Yeah.
And so, certainly there's grants programs that are going to help with that, and there's also the Cardone Ventures programs that are going to help that.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that too, because I don't know if I touched base on that too. I kept talking about businesses, but you're absolutely right. This could be just for, the average person who's been working a job for 10 years, a job for 20 years, and they're just thinking, I'm ready for the next chapter of my life. I know I can do something more. I know I have more potential than this. Where do I get started? And so as licensees, giving a person, we're talking about the business. Yes, we'll give a business and their sales team access to this, but you can just give just the average individual access to Cardone University, and you can start with those things that we talked about, mindset. There's a whole thing on mindset. Whatever. How to change. There's different categories that are real specific, and the content is so vast. I mean, there's a ton of good content in there, an overload of good content in there. And I think I did only recently in the last few weeks started thinking that, because I talk to a lot of friends and family, and I find myself coaching them just by default. And I'm thinking, man, that might be the main thing I use the licensee program for. It's definitely going to be one of the things, if I just enjoying kind of coaching somebody and just helping them on a personal one-on-one level, that's definitely going to be an avenue to do too, and start with my power base as well as cold calling businesses too.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and along those lines, you look at it, just the rules of success, the 13 rules of success, you can use that anywhere, right?
Absolutely.
That's going to help us all. Show up, give 100%, fuel yourself, be willing to fail, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So that's great. The other one is everybody's in sales. Again, this is one of those things that, you'd say, well, he's crazy. No, I'm not in sales. I'm an engineer, or I'm not in sales. Whatever. And I'm a carpenter. I'm not in sales. But the answer is yeah, because we're going to sell our children on going to bed or eating a good meal, and so the commissions may be different, you're looking for love, or you're looking for, them to get a good night's sleep, but you're always selling. And it's communication, it's negotiation, it's helping each other, and it's how do you present it.
Absolutely. I realized some of the best salesmen that I know personally will say adamantly, like, I couldn't be a salesman. I mean, I'm serious. Some of the best salesmen I know, one of my best friends, I swear, he could be an exceptional, like, a traditional salesman if he just committed to it. I'm like, man, you've been selling your whole life and you're a very good salesman. Like, you can convince a lot of people and stuff, but you know, he'll tell me, you know, like, yeah, sales, I don't know if that's my thing. You know, I'm like, it is your thing. I'm telling you, that's your thing. It's so ironic. Very good. What was your first reaction when you heard about the licensing program?
Funny, can I go back to Lori? We were meeting with Grant. We had a one-on-one session with him, and she mentioned to Grant that, you know, we'd come there, we wanted to learn more about real estate, get some of his insights on real estate. But she said during the course of the meeting, she said, you know, we always like to add value. So we appreciate this, you know, getting together. We know we're going to take something out of this, but what can we do for you? Where can we add value to you or to your organization? And he paused for a moment and he said, you know, with Larry's experience, I would love for him to become a licensee, you know, because there's real world experience. He's going to be able to connect with people. It would just be fantastic. And so, you know, I kind of was like, okay, I'm not quite sure what this is. And we ended up, you know, Grant said, I don't know what Grant said, but before we knew it, Elliot was there. And,
he's quick, huh?
Yeah, I think when Grant says, hey, I want X, you know, whatever it is, you know, and at that moment he said, go get Elliot. And Elliot came over and, you know, we ended up spending an hour or so with Elliot, and he, you know, as you know, he's tremendous.
Absolutely.
And so we spent some good time talking with it, and he said to me, you know, he said, as we were talking, he says, so, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're all in, you know, where are you? And I said, about a 6, you know, and he said, okay, well, you know, what would get it to a 10? And I said, I'm not really sure right now. I'm not sure if this is for me. I'm not sure, you know, I just don't know right now. And I just needed time, you know, some time to absorb and some time for Lori and I to talk. And he said, all right. And so we took like a day or two, and ultimately we obviously ended up saying yes. And I think that the thing that hit was just that it was an opportunity. It was a way to help people. And it really made me pause and reflect that, okay, I guess I do have this experience, because I probably hadn't really accepted that I did. And so to answer your question, at first I wasn't all that fired up about it. And now, you know, I just see it as a tremendous opportunity. Nice.
Very nice. Well, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's I think Grant Cardone was on to something, because you do seem like you would be a good fit, especially with the amount of experience that you've got in business. You can do exactly what we talked about earlier. You can provide you contribute your experience paired up with the licensee and provide a lot of value. Very nice. All right, so let's get into some different questions here. What advice would you give to somebody just starting a business? What would you say to them? What's some valuable things you can probably tell them to focus on?
Yeah, great question. You know, there's so many different ways to go, but I think I've actually been working on this, and I've actually just put together a very simple 2-page ebook that I'm going to use in helping business owners, and it's really just the start. But the 3 things that I'm looking at is you know, first one is vision, and sort of the first response to most people is vision. You know, I've got real work to do. You know, what are you asking me to do vision for? And it's really to help you be able to see what you want to accomplish. And the great analogy is, assume, you know, you and your daughter are going to put together a 1,000-piece puzzle, and you spread the pieces out over the table. Do you think that you'd be better off with a picture of the puzzle, the completed puzzle in front of you, that you can look at from time to time as you're connecting the pieces, or no picture at all? And obviously the answer is you're better off with the completed picture, right? Well, and it's the same with vision. If you can say, hey, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. Here's what I think we're going to do. Here's where I think we're going to go in the next 10 years. You know, as an example, if you said, hey, it's the licensing business, what do you think? You know, I'm hoping that I'm shooting now to be able to help 1,000 businesses a year, maybe build the business to where we have 30 employees, you know, and the businesses that we're working with could be, you know, just starting up. Maybe they've been around for 5 years and they're struggling, or they're wildly successful, but they want to do more. And so, you know, that's part of the business, that's part of the vision. So be able to share the story, share the picture of what you see in your mind, and that's going to help you. It's going to help you. It's going to help your people. It's going to help, you know, your customers and everything. So I think vision would be one. The second thing that I want to stress, I'll say, is working smarter. You know, you got to work hard, but it's also really, really beneficial if you can work smarter. So, you know, what's your morning routine? As an example, you know, like you said, you know, what are you doing to prepare yourself? Are you getting some Cardone you? Are you learning? Are you practicing? Are you drilling? You know, are you mentally picturing the meeting that you're going to go to, or the sales call that you're going to make, or the plans that you have for the next construction project you're working on? How do you prepare yourself in the morning? What are the most important things you do every day? How do you measure it? You know, those types of things. So work smarter. And then the third piece, and again, I'm working to keep this simple, believe it or not, but the third piece is questions. You know, asking great questions, looking at things and saying, you know, and Brandon says often, the quality of your questions is directly related to the quality of the outcome. Better questions get better results. So, you know, if you're walking around with the mindset of, you know, oh, that's unreasonable, how the heck would anybody do that? You're obviously going to end up in a different direction than how can I do this? What would I have to do to get there? And it's the same thing when you're talking with a customer, or maybe you're talking with an employee. You know, asking better questions is going to get you further along. So take a look at those questions, ask better questions, ask more questions than you make statements. So I think that would be that would be a lot of what I'd say with a business owner, you know, that's just starting out.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear you say ask questions more than you make statements. I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, I just you know, and there's been times in my life where I needed to hear that too. But yeah, asking more questions, it just it shows that you want to grow and you're looking to be better. In order to be better, you need to ask quality questions. And I've always loved that statement that Brandon has said, that you just said, you know, the quality of questions is going to determine whether you get a quality answer out of that or not. It's so huge. He's so right too.
One other point, and this goes away from the three questions, but I think another thing that would be really important for somebody that's just starting a business is to realize the different phases that you go through. You know, when you're first starting up, a lot of your business is focused on what? What are you selling? What service are you providing? Whatever. So it's the what. And are people willing to buy that what? You know, so you got to be able to deliver it. You got to be able to have good value. You got to be able to sell it. But it's the what. Then as you continue to grow, it's going to be the who. Who are you working with? Maybe, you know, if you have employees, who are you hiring? If not, maybe who are your vendors? Who are your subcontractors? But who are you working with? How are you doing? You know, how are you making that happen? Again, with who? And then as you get a little bigger, it's going to be how. How are you executing it? What kind of processes do you have? Systems, routines, and everything. And that just keeps looping around. You know, as soon as you get through that, you're going to go right back to what? You know, are there different things that we can offer? Is there a better way we can offer it?
Nice. I forgot I was going to bring this up when you talked about this earlier, but you mentioned earlier that you weren't a big social media guy. You know, you flew under the radar. And by the way, I hear a lot of people say that. You know, and particularly people who are, you know, generally older. You know, they're like, I don't have time for that. You know, it's just that Facebook stuff is not for me. It's too much. So first, I'm happy to see that you're doing social media. I really enjoy seeing, you know, your Instagram, Facebook posts, and seeing that you're diving into that heavy and you're getting involved with that, and that you see the value in that. Would you say that someone starting out, how important is getting attention? Should they do social media? Should they, you know, is there a lot of value in just doing the simple things too?
I think the answer is yes. You know, I mean, and it's, you know, difficult right now to say here's the proof, but I think the answer is yes. I think one, it helps you connect with people, and it helps you connect with people that you probably would never have contacted, you know, before. The second thing is that it really helps you hone in your message.
Yeah.
Because you know, if you're sending out a simple post or you're doing a really quick video, you got to have a really clear message. And then, you know, the other part of it is promote. You know, I'm thinking of, you know, Grant will say promote, promote, promote. Brandon has the 3 P's. It's now become 4 P's, but the first of those 3 P's is promote. You know, you again, as a business owner, you need to promote. And so social media ties in with that really, really well.
Yeah, it does. Such a great way to, I mean, it's free. It's generally just free. All it takes is, I talk about that quite a bit actually, is, you know, there's a lot of people that get stuck, like, how, I don't even know what to say, I don't know what to do. You know, and then, you know, the key is to just do it. Hit the live button, hit the, you know, take that picture, do whatever, type a quick little message in there, send it off. And a lot of people get stuck with that and they think that there's no value to that, but I'm going to help you out with the answer to that. You said there's really no proof, but I can attest to that. My personal experience with social media and using it in my home improvement business has greatly impacted the flow. Like, our presence in the community is huge because of that. We're doing things that the average home improvement business is not doing. There's not too many business owners that are doing live video selfies on job sites, walking them through projects, doing things like that. And I get all kinds of, I can think of a handful of times off the top of my head right now where I've went to a job to do a bid or a quote, and someone said, "Hey, I seen that video you did, you know, in Seattle on that sunroom you guys finished." He's like, "That was excellent. As soon as I seen that video with you, I knew I was going to do business with you immediately." And it was that easy. It was a laydown.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Absolutely. So yeah, it's, I guess, to piggyback what you're talking about, just, you know, put those posts out there and get your social media presence on board when you're starting out.
We've been making a conscious effort to get that out there, and Lori's been spending a lot of time, you know, figuring out different ways and to be creative and get the message out. So it's working out. You know, we're really happy with it. So building momentum.
It becomes fun, to be honest. Once you get used to it, right? It becomes fun. All right. Well, that's excellent. I appreciate that insight to help other someone who may be starting out. Let's see. Let's see. Gosh, I always do this, by the way. I'll have a bazillion questions and I never get to them all. So then towards the end, I got to decide, which ones are getting cut. I want to make sure I'm getting to these ones. So I got to make some tough choices at the end here. I guess let's hear what you have to say about, you know, your current business. Where do you guys see your current business going in 5 years from now? Your main business, the agriculture business.
Sure. Most of our business has been in the Western United States and specifically in California and Arizona. We've expanded a bit. We've got some operations down in Mexico, equipment down in Mexico, not really operations. I think, you know, a lot of it is we're expanding with our current customers. And, you know, the good news is for the most part, fresh produce has continued to get traction and, you know, a lot of people like it and eat it. So that's good stuff.
Yeah.
The challenges are, I mean, these growers, you know, the growers face so many different challenges. I mean, whether it's, you know, pests, weather, markets, you know, and so they're a very, very innovative group. So that they look, you know, for how can they improve things, how can they, you know, what has to change. And I think one of the things that could very well change is more of the vertical farming. This is indoor farming. So you can grow lettuce, say in New York, up just outside of New York City. You can grow it. It'll be in a warehouse, but they do it with lights and controlling the temperature and everything else. And then they would be able to, ship that produce right into New York City fairly quickly. So that's something that's changing the industry. And if more of that happens, that means there's less happening in California or Arizona. I think right now the magnitude of it isn't all that huge, and more of it is towards the specialty items. So it's not iceberg lettuce. It's I'm going to make this up. It's mint, and that type of thing. But they're learning, and more of these are coming along. You can, you're going to have it. It's going to be close. It's going to be fresher. You don't have the transportation costs. And so there's a lot of benefits. And one of the things that I always watch for is what I call exponential change. So, something starts off small, and before you know it, the curve grows right up. And could that happen with this indoor farming or the vertical farming? Yeah, could very well happen. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. I think, leaving that alone for a moment, we've got a great group of customers that we work with. We deliver a great service, and I think we continue to click along and grow at between 5% and 7% a year. We're working on a couple expansion opportunities right now, and that'll keep us busy for at least the next 2 to 3 years if they hit. And we've got like I say, we've got a good solid business.
Very nice.
Foundation.
Very nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
Let me know if I didn't answer your question.
No, absolutely. No, I see, growth is the main thing, I can, you talked about potential things that could change the industry a little bit and that you might have to pivot in that. And so, it sounds like you at least got your head, you're poking your head up, you're keeping, an eye on things,
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The other thing that we're doing is, really wanting to make sure that the organization is ready for the future. So I spend a lot of my time, and I'm going to increase it, but I spend a lot of my time, I call it helping the business get ready for the future. And, that's looking forward and looking at things like the vertical farming, but it's also, how do we want the company structured? How are we providing the service to our customers? How are we building the management team? And really getting ready for the future.
Very nice. Yeah, that's exciting. Even, like I said, there's business owners who are hitting numbers like you, and they're fine. They're not really looking to grow more. If it happens, it happens, but they have no ambition to grow more. They feel like they might even be capped out. They're hitting the ceiling. As Brandon Dawson likes to say. That I don't know if that's a term. There's a term he uses where you hit a level in your
break points.
Break point. There you go. A lot of people that are hitting the break points and they're doing well, and they just don't know the next level. What to do. They feel like they either are stuck or they're just comfortable, and they're like, there's no need to progress. We're fine.
Yeah, and as you're hitting those, things start getting disruptive. The water gets a little choppy. And how do you work your way through it? Some, like you say, some people say I'll just stay. Some people, they keep pushing because they don't know about breakpoints. Quite honestly, I didn't know about breakpoints. And you could collapse on yourself. You gotta continue to build foundations. And we talked about earlier. It's what you do, it's who you do it with, and it's how you do it. And as you work your way through those breakpoints, that how you do it gets a lot different, and then who you do it with gets a lot different, because you're going to need a different type of team, a different type of management team at 75 million than you do at 3 million. You're going to need completely different systems between those two levels too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you answered this question. You talked about, my next question was like, where do you see the Grant Cardone licensing business in 5 years? I think you touched base on that. You were looking to have 1,000 businesses to help, or excuse me, it was 100 or 1,000. I think you said
1,000 a year. Yeah, I'm shooting for 1,000 a year.
Yeah, that's huge number goals right there. So that's a lot of ambition. So I'm gonna be with you to hold you accountable, right?
There you go.
And I'm gonna ask you to do the same for me.
Okay.
No, it's exciting though. It really is. What's one, we talked about, social media. We talked about a few other things as far as a business owner just starting out or thinking about starting their own business. Is it important for someone to look for uncomfortable situations, and have you always done that, and how has that benefited you? Do you think that's very important for somebody to understand going into business as far as being uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think whenever you're stretching yourself, you get uncomfortable, right? And it's real easy, in a sense, to say, let's stay comfortable, let's just hang here, let's not rock the boat. And yet, after a while, you probably get bored. It just, it's just not going to be that good. And I think, learning, if you learn and you see potential, you're going to pull yourself forward and try to grow. And some of that's going to be uncomfortable. As an example, if you're working for somebody, if you're working in a company, you decide that you want to go start your own business, that by itself is going to be pretty darn uncomfortable. You're leaving a big security blanket, But if you are convinced that you've got a great way to do it, you're convinced that you've got a great product, you're going to provide a great value, and you're committed to going out and making it work, you can do it. But it's going to be pretty darn uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, it's a huge thing, absolutely. And I imagine, I guess asking you, like, how uncomfortable was it for you to start doing social media?
Very.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. No, it was uncomfortable, and one having the story, figuring out what to talk about, how to present it. The first few times, I think the darn things were a minute and a half, 2 minutes long, and you're saying nobody's going to watch this, and how do you get it down? And all of a sudden, you keep working it, and you get a crisp story. And one that gets to the point and it makes sense. So yeah, very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because it can be uncomfortable, but the fact that you're pushing through that is really cool, because it's like that for everybody. Everybody, when I first started doing if you go back and watch the first podcast I did, terrible. And all the first social media posts I've done, terrible as well. So yeah. I'm glad that you pointed that out. The other thing is, I like what Alan Lazar likes to say, just to kind of dovetail what you said. He says, assume nobody sees it. Nobody sees your post. So whenever you find yourself thinking about like that mindset, like you just had, like, oh, nobody's going to see this, just assume they're not going to see it anyway. So it doesn't really matter what you put out there. Just hit that button and start talking, right?
Yep, exactly.
There's power in that too.
Yeah, assume nobody sees it, and no one mistake will blow a deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. What's one thing a person can do right now to put themselves out there and be uncomfortable?
You could put yourself out there by stating what you want to accomplish in the next 10 years. And then that's one, and then the other one, I guess, is whatever you think you're going to do, find a way to 10x it.
Yeah.
So, money is easy to use because you can count it, right? So, if you think you're going to make one number, 10x it, and then ask yourself, how are you going to get there? Even the 1,000 customers that I mentioned, I started off saying, 100. 2 a week, that's what I needed. Then I said, 10x it. And so, I took it to 1,000. And how are you going to get to 1,000? Well, that's 20 a week. How are you going to get 20 a week? Well, you got to make so many calls. So I think to answer your question, you said, how do you get uncomfortable? Put yourself out there, commit to some things, and 10x it. Stretch yourself. The stretching yourself alone will make you very, very uncomfortable. But the funny thing is, when you start looking at it, you start playing the what if game. How can I do it? What if I did this? What if I did that? Before you know it, you're on your way. and if you just left it at the smaller number, you might get there, you might not. You might not be all that fired up about it. And all of a sudden you realize, this could happen, you know?
Yeah, there's light. The light starts appearing at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yep.
Very nice.
Elon Musk said recently something like he tries to do 10-year projects in 6 months. And he said, now look, they're not all going to happen. I mean, but maybe it takes me a year, because it's a lot better than 10 years.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. Just having that mindset. I mean, he's obviously a very exceptional, driven individual. So it's a great guy to follow. So what's some of your, here's some of my tapered off questions here as we kind of wind this podcast down. What's some of your passions, some of your hobbies, outside of work?
Sure. We really enjoy traveling. We like going to new places and running into new people, new places, new cultures, new ideas. So traveling is really, really fun. We'll in a sense combine things. Let me give you a better example. A few years ago, we went to New York, and it all started because we saw that Eric Clapton was going to be playing at Madison Square Garden.
Nice.
And we said, God, that'd be great. So we said, let's get tickets. And this is even before Grant. And I'll say again, I told you, Lori and Grant are twins. So we committed first. We bought the tickets, and then we said, all right, let's figure out the trip. The concert's on this day, so we'll fly in on this day. We'll do We'll spend 10 days there, and we ended up making a great trip out of it. But to answer your question, we love traveling. We love going to places. We also really, really, really enjoy music, and so we love live music. We've missed it obviously for the last year and a half. Looking forward to getting back to it. We love all kinds of music, rock and roll, country, jazz, classical. So music is really a lot of fun. There's a winery that's about 10 minutes away from us, and for 25 years they held wonderful concerts during the summer. Outdoor, you'd have a dinner, and then you'd have a concert, and they got some pretty good groups. Then it was done, and we were home in 10 minutes.
Oh, nice.
It was really, really nice. With the pandemic ended that, and it doesn't look like they're going to bring it back, but which is a shame.
Yeah.
But so we would enjoy things like that. Again, traveling. I mean, when the kids were younger, we spent time up in your neck of the woods. A couple summers up in the San Juan Islands.
Yeah.
Over the western United States, Montana, Wyoming. We toured quite a bit of Western Canada, down in the Southwest. We did motorhome trips, and so I would take like 4 weeks off, and I'd stay in touch, but go travel. And again, this is that mindset. How do you make it work? People, how can you leave for 4 weeks? I packed up a big box, had stuff, had a computer, had a mobile phone, cell phone, and off we went.
Commit first, figure it out later, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is you learn to delegate. You say, okay, how am I going to make this work? And you start building the team. So,
yeah,
good stuff. Anyway, those are some of the things. I've always enjoyed flying. When I was young, just traveling on a plane was great, and I ended up getting my pilot's license and got instrument rated. I'm not current right now, but just going through that and learning and having the freedom to get out there and fly for a while, that was pretty neat.
Yeah, I bet that's a real thrill right there. That's a huge, that's a fun experience, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And one of the things, just flying is great, and then when you become instrument rated, you become such a better pilot. And one of the things that you have to do as you're going through your instrument training is you're always under a hood, and then they cover. I'm trying to remember. I think you just cover your eyes like this, and the instructor takes the plane, goes up, goes down, goes left, goes right, to the point that you have no idea what configuration you're in, and he covers up all but 3 instruments, and then he says, plane's yours, and you got to figure out how to recover. And at first, it scares the heck out of you, but then after a while, it becomes fun. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, talk about uncomfortable. I'm sure that was very uncomfortable at first. Oh, that's fantastic. All right. So, real quick here, I think I wanted you to answer this question because I was talking to a couple people about this, and I gave them my response, but I was curious, they'll probably end up watching this later on. Other people could use the same advice. There's some people that have like negative people in their life, people that, whether it's directly or indirectly or, friends or family, they don't know what to do about it. They want to make a move, but they're not in symbiotic relationship with their spouse, which, by the way, I was happy to hear that Lori is on board. You guys are completely on board with your value system and what your goals are. And I think that's huge, and I was going to ask you that question, how important it is to have a support system with you. And you really answered that already. But what would you say to someone who has negativity in general, or a negative person in their life and that doesn't support them in a goal or something new that they want to do?
That's a tough one. The easy answer is, there was a guy that I was listening to a podcast one day, and this guy said, with folks like that, you love them from afar, wave to them from over their fence. That's probably the easy answer in a lot of ways, but in certain relationships that's going to be very, very difficult, right?
Yeah.
The other part of it, I guess, is that's a tough one, but it's acceptance. So okay, great. They want to feel that way. Great. That doesn't mean you have to feel that way, and you can pursue, what you want to pursue. That's somewhat of a Pollyanna answer, and somewhat of a dream world, because in the real world, there's always those connections and those emotions, and it can be very, very difficult. I think the biggest one is stay focused on what you want, and focus on what you believe is happening, and maybe, especially if you don't resist it, maybe at some point in the future, the light bulb's going to go off for them, and they're going to say, you know what, I finally get what you're saying. If you fight, and believe me, we're all good at this, and I'm really good at resisting things too. But if you can just continue to move along and not resist them and show them how it's working, and all of a sudden they go, wow, and maybe they do come along. But I don't have a great answer. It's really tough.
It is tough. It absolutely, and I'm glad you said that, because I struggled with that advice too. When I was asked that question, I've had that asked to me a few times. Some friends or family, are like, they see me on social media, they see that I've done well, they know me, they've seen my journey, whether it's personally in real life or on the digital world. And they ask me those type of questions, and that is one of the questions that I struggle with as well too. So I guess I'm happy to see that you're having a tough time too. Because there's really no great answer with that. I thought I was the oddball out with that, because there's no other words for it. It's just a tough one. All right. Well, I got. And by the way, I appreciate your patience. This is a long podcast, and I've had people say that, oh, that's a 2-hour podcast. That's pretty long. But the reality is I never get to all my questions anyway, so it can't be that long. I've done podcasts.
It's gone by really quick.
Exactly.
Great.
When you have a lot to talk about, I've noticed that too. When you think about it before you go into it, it's like, 2 hours, that is a long time. But if you just have so much to talk about, it goes by really quick. For me too. Yeah, but I do this thing with everybody that I basically call quick question. So my quick question for you, Larry, is what do you want to be known and remembered for?
A loving and supportive husband, a wonderful, loving father, contributed to the world in some way. You know, I mean, it could be small ways. It could be that I'm helping business owners. I mean, I've been on the board, been the president of a homeowners association, and helped that community. So I think contributing. I've contributed. And then now you get to the 10X and you say, okay, great, those are all good things. And again, it's you've done okay, you've done well. What are you going to do? You know, how are you going to blow it up? And I'm still working through that, but I think there could be more.
Nice, very nice. And by the way, speaking of HOA, you know, it's hit or miss with those guys. I got to deal with HOA members all the time, and you know, 50% of them are easygoing, like, sure, yeah, you can do whatever you want back there. And some of them are, you know, they're like, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's got to match the color of the house. It's got to have the same roofing. It's got to, neighbors can't see it. You can't have a script. I mean, they get real pedantic sometimes, and then they're like, you got to get a permit. And, you know, it's like, Jesus, people, relax a little bit.
Yeah.
You were one of those people, though.
well, I you know, actually, we had a couple of big battles, but one of I'll say real quickly, the guy that was running the association before me, he used to try to not let anybody say we had some problems in this community, and the developer wasn't doing some things, and so people were really wound up. And the previous guy, he wouldn't let anybody talk. You know, okay, you get 30 seconds to state your problem. You know,
that's terrible.
And you know, my approach was more of, hey, let's hear what the problems are. Let's see what we can do to solve them. And I ended up working with the developer, and we got along really well. I found a way to get his attention. We had a certain point where we had some leverage, and I just said, we'll do this for you, but here's what we want for it. Boom, 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 boom. You know, and we got everything solved, and we did it in a positive way, and we ended up getting along really, really well. So nice. I think that, you know, work with people. Yes, you need to have standards. Yes, you want to have quality, but, you know, work with people.
Yeah. I've gotten HOAs to really bend the rules a little bit because of, you know, I'll reference houses next door and say, look, you know, they're doing this, they're doing that, but you're saying this homeowner can't do it. It seems a bit unfair. You know, what can we do to get these homeowners what they want? And I've had people say, fine, just do it. It's like, oh, that's awesome. All right. That's fantastic. So yeah, Larry, this has been real good conversation. You're a very exceptional individual. You've done a lot with your life. I like where your mindset's at. I got a lot of value out of this personally. So I'm sure somebody watching this, whether they're live streaming with us or they watch it later, I'm sure they're going to get a ton of value out of this. So I really appreciate you carving out your busy schedule and sitting down and chatting with me about some stuff that we both value in our lives.
Well, thank you. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I've appreciated the opportunity to talk and to be able to share the message. So this has been great. I also want to say thank you for all the upfront preparation. You know, I mean, this is the first time we've talked, but we were exchanging messages and getting ready, and it was excellent working with you on it. So
thank you. I appreciate that. I operate my business like that as well. I'm very prompt with getting back to people, and I get those compliments quite a bit. I learned that from Grant. You know, my receptionist, I gave her a checklist when I hired her. I said, your first job and your first thing to focus on is to answer that phone on the first ring. I don't want it to ring twice. And she does a fantastic job, and she's gotten so many compliments. She'll get a message to me, I'll get the message, and I'll call somebody immediately and put out the fires, or just get back to somebody. So I really appreciate hearing that, because people value that too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So where can people find you? What can you plug here? You know, your social medias or even your agriculture business. Like where can people find you? What kind of attention do you want?
Yeah, no, super. I right now, you know, building things out, but good places with Instagram and with Facebook is Larry Snyder 10X. So, you know, Snyder is SNYDER. And I'm getting good at that. And again, Lori's in the background making a lot of great things happen there. The other part would be an email to Larry@LarrySnyder.com. And this is what we're using on the licensee business, really looking to connect with people. Also, and it may be up right now, we were working on it today. It may not be up for until say Monday, but people could reach out to larrysnyder.com/grow, and they would be able to download the 2-page ebook I was telling you about with the three quick tips.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants it, just DM me or shoot me an email. I'll be happy to get it out there. Also, always happy to have a 15-minute conversation with anybody, talk about their business, and see if there's a way that we can help them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you putting that out there too. Sounds like I love that forthcoming attitude. That's what it's about, right? Helping people, putting yourself, be willing, having that give mentality, and you got that, and I really appreciate that about you. Well, thanks again. Like I said, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate this time. I look forward to meeting you too. I'm sure eventually we'll see. I'll be one of those individuals that you're going to see at one of these events, and we're going to say that it's good to meet you in 3D rather than 2D. And so I look forward to that. If I don't see any time before next GrowthCon, I'll definitely make it a point to shake your hand over at the next GrowthCon and say hi to you. All right.
Absolutely. We're going to shake hands and we're going to feel that energy, that personal energy. So looking forward to it. Nice.
Very nice. All right, Larry. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. So if you guys want to find this podcast, go ahead. Like I said, we're done with the live stream, obviously, but you could always go on Facebook, Twitch, and what's the other one there? I'm drawing a blank. YouTube. There we go. All right. Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. Check out the live event that's posted on there, and then also Spotify, Instagram, and Twitter. Give us a like, give us a share, subscribe, give us some love, give us a little heart emoji, whatever it is. Show us some love. Keep that momentum going so we can keep fantastic individuals coming on like Larry, so that we can help anybody who was looking for help. All right. Well, once again, Larry, I appreciate you coming on. So you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll catch up with you next time. Probably see you on Friday or the next licensee call. All right.
Sounds great. Thank you very, very much, Ben. Sure appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Take care. All right.
Good night.